it knowing that you can do it already. Where's the fun? I mean, like, I'll be straight up. Well, actually, no. I won't say anything yet on that topic. I've uploaded a few. Where it hasn't been possible to do the run that I'm setting out to do because I don't want it to be obvious from the get-go. Clip it, clip it, clip it, clip it, clip it, clip it. Clip it, clip it, clip it, clip. Channel regulars will know for my copyability spotlights, and if you're not a channel regular, well, there's the playlist. I'm absolutely going to ask you to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy the content, because all of those things really help me out. That Rick in Kirby's Dream Land 3 is very underwhelming, objectively. The other animal friends generally have it much better, Kuenkain especially. But I even noticed for casual play that, outside of people that are generally big Rick fans, nobody seems to enjoy using him very much. And I mean, it makes sense. He's kind of big, he can't float like Kirby does, and most of his abilities aren't very exciting. The Rick roll is probably his most well-known, and yeah, I can respect that, but there's one ability combination with Rick that we're going to be focusing on today, and that is Rick plus Cutter. For those who don't know, the main gimmick of Dreamland 3 is that you can combine the standard Kirby copy ability with your animal friends and produce a bunch of different kinds of ability combinations. Think Kirby 64, except instead of ability plus ability, it's ability plus friend. Anyways, the reason that we'll be focusing on Rick plus Cutter specifically is because of how the ability works. Rick tosses Kirby like a boomerang. Kirby goes forward like a projectile and comes back to Rick after a short while. That said, the speed of which Kirby comes back to Rick is the same, or at least very close to, Rick's running speed. Rick can't attack without Kirby, so he's basically defenseless, but he can still run, jump, crouch, all of the basics. So the question then is, how many levels can you clear with just Rick while Kirby is off, doing boomerang things? You can figure by the title of the video that there are some roadblocks that prevent this from fully being possible. There's some auto-scrollers, not all of them, believe it or not, large rooms with a lot of platforms to fall through, and basically every decently sized puddle of water stop Rick from being able to run away from Kirby. Instead of doing a traditional kind of challenge run video, we're going to talk about what is doable, or if nothing else, what's really cool. As always with these challenge runs, I do need to lay some groundwork first. At the start of every room, it doesn't matter when I do it, but Rick has to throw Kirby away before doing anything else. He can turn around and throw Kirby, but otherwise he can't move or do any other kind of action. If Rick can get past the door to the next room, I count it as a success. I also figured that, if need be, Rick can enter any door, and then once exiting, throw Kirby back and start the whole process over, but this never wound up being necessary or really even helping out. Now then, to get started, level 1-1, it's the first level, so aside from actually getting Rick plus Cutter, there isn't much to say. Well, except for getting the Heart Star. While getting most of these things just not going to be possible, you can actually get this one. It requires a lot of precision since Kirby will murder the flowers if he touches them, so you need to maneuver Rick in a very specific manner to get him to the end without killing anything. Or killing any flowers, at least. Everything else is fair game. This is Kirby, after all. Nothing all that noteworthy here. This room is tricky, and already I'm finding myself having used Rick's wall jump to get through, but otherwise, it's nothing special. You can't get the Heart Star, which is a trend that we'll be seeing a lot of, but the level itself, very doable. First things first, the vertical auto-scroller is actually doable. When the Boomerang Kirby comes back to Rick, he does so in a circular motion, so if you jump over him, he'll swoop right past Rick and give you more space. Rinse, repeat, you can get to the end of the room without Kirby at all. Oh, and the other vertical auto-scroller, that's possible too. You can get the Heart Star and even clear out the rest of the level without any problem. This is one of the last times that everything works out, so enjoy it while you can. There's some water in this level, but you can clear it with the right strategy. What's much sillier is the room right after, where all of these star blocks are in the way. Rick by himself can't enter the Zibon. these green things. Without Kirby, and I did specify that Rick had to toss Kirby away before doing anything else. My solution was to Mario my way out of this and have Rick wall jump while bashing his head into some star blocks. Believe it or not, this actually does work and gives you just enough time to clear out the rest of the room with ease. This section is annoying because of the small space in the Gordos, but with enough precision, you can also get it done. I can't think of anything interesting to say about 1-5, except you can clear it, but you can't get the heart star. 1-6, on the other hand, that's a whole other can of worms because of this room here. Now, for a bit of bad news, channel regulars may know that this video was actually supposed to be out way sooner than this. The reason it wasn't was because of a real bad case of corrupted footage. My bad, it's not looking into it sooner, but it did mean that I had to re-record a lot of things. Because I want to get this video out in a reasonable time, I did have to admit defeat in some areas, and even though I knew this was actually possible, you can absolutely clear this, and it's super tough and precise, but it was too much for me to do a second time. Sorry about that, folks. This bit of the level is doable too, even if it is really annoying. Speaking of doable though, Wispy Woods, you can beat him like this too. I actually attempted this one live on my Twitch channel and I beat it there. It took me a while to figure out exactly how I would actually hit Wispy without getting Kirby to snap back onto Rick, but after a while I figured it out, and from there it was pretty simple. This is a personal favorite Wispy fight of mine, so I'm glad it's possible. As for World 2, okay, so here's the thing. 2-1, that's possible, but 2-2 through 2-5 are impossible because there's too much water. To avoid some bad repetition, I'll just skim over these levels with the I hate water and challenge runs stamp and move on. Excluding boss fights, there's still over 15 levels left, so believe me, we kinda have to keep the pace going. 2-6, on the other hand, is a much more interesting story. First things first, this room with the low ceiling and the water, if we're very precise, jumping past the obstacles or outright breaking them with Rick's big brain and getting to the end works. There are a few really close calls, but that's what makes challenges like this exciting, right? Things get even crazier in here. There's a lot to tackle, so let's break this down. You need to climb up while avoiding not only Kirby, but the plentitude of respawning enemies throughout, while planning where you can jump and land so that you can make sure Rick isn't put in a situation where he can't escape Kirby. This game also pulls a fast one on you at the very end, which isn't so bad when you know it's coming, but after getting through everything on what looks like a finished attempt only to be robbed, feels bad. As for Acro, well, the first phase is easy, but phase 2 puts you underwater. Oh well. The most exciting thing about 3-1 to say right off the bat is that you can get the Heart Star. This is another flower level, which even in normal play are some of my own personal favorite Heart Star challenges in the whole game, and this one has you kill flowers so that the mushrooms can thrive. That doesn't sound healthy for the environment, but I don't know, who am I to judge, right? I don't live on Popstar. The hardest part has to be here when this flower is in this small gap. It's a pretty long room, and making even one mistake gives Kirby enough time to catch up. With a lot of the other flowers, you can rely on Kirby to kill them, like in 1-1, but Kirby won't go low enough at any point to kill this one. You have to be really fast in order to get it. Unfortunately, we hit our first true roadblock of the run that doesn't involve water here. This room is already tough enough as it is, but things get roadblocky right around here. This wouldn't be so bad normally, since you can just have Rick move left or right accordingly to avoid Kirby, but the Shotzo shooting at you from the left makes this impossible. If it hits you, Rick gets stunned, and during that stun state, Kirby can just land back on Rick. And if you're thinking that we can keep that star block around to block the bullet, Rick is too tall and gets hit by the other one. I spent longer on this than I want to admit, thinking that it could be done because it feels like it's possible, but all of that to no avail. This right here is what I'm talking about with the Shotzo. You can maneuver Rick all you want. That hit stun from getting attacked is not going to get you anywhere. The good news is that I got hit by a mistake here, totally my fault. That was avoidable. Sorry, Rick. You can just brush it off. You've dealt with worse. Anyway, that's nice and all, but this room here took me forever. It's a lot harder than it looks. You can jump on these guys to get through, but the timing is very strict. Not only because of our regular offender over there, but also because when these enemies attack, most of them shoot out a projectile. Because Rick is so big, he gets hit by them really easily. Now, unfortunately, my efforts to get through this were in vain, as I couldn't get past the next room. I can feasibly see Rick moving left and right to avoid Kirby for a while, but the moving quicksand really messes the whole thing up. Then enemies find themselves in the mix, and everything just falls apart entirely. Again, if the quicksand and the enemies weren't here, I might be singing a different tune, but I'm not. Right away, we knock this one off. Right here, if you move down and to the right, Kirby catches up. If you go to the left, there's an enemy there. And even if you could maneuver your way out of this, it's another one that feels like it could work out, even though it can't. This would stop you dead in your tracks. But nothing else, you can get the Heart Star, though. It was around this level that I realized that I need max health before starting any level. Rick is a big boy, and he gets hit really easily, so I need all the health that I can get. I really only bring this up because I wanted an excuse to show off this first room here. It's pretty big, and one of the first instances since the very beginning where Rick gets to show off some of his movement. This is pretty great. You don't have to leave. I don't say movement for the rest of the video. Don't worry. Actually, this level is filled to the brim with cool Rick movement until the water shows up. Again, this is the point where I write really deep sigh because I can't stand water in these stupid things in my script. But even without the water, we'd hit another stop at the final room. It's really big, and while I managed to make it pretty far, getting past this candy here is actually very good. I can't think of a way past this, which is frustrating because there's barely anything left in the level after that. It's so short. The beginning is a nightmare, and not because of the first part. That's easy, with a bonus of not having to feel remorse over killing these Waddle Dees, because they're already dead. No, the frustration comes from these falling blocks. Things wouldn't be all that bad if it weren't for one problem, which requires a bit of a tangent. See, to run in this game, you double tap a direction, and you run in that direction. This has been Video Gaming's how-to series. Thanks for watching. What's nice about the older Kirby games is that, even if you change directions during a run, you don't need to double tap in order to run, which really helps you keep your momentum going. But if you take damage, you lose your run, and thus your momentum entirely. Of course, you can double tap to start running again, but not only is there a short wind-up period before you get your speed back, but as you can plainly see right here, even though I double tapped, Rick did not run. I feel like it has to do something with taking damage, but I don't know enough about this to confirm anything. The Video Gaming's how-to series was all a joke. All I know is that this was annoying, but just for you guys, I got through it. I'm gonna show this room in its entirety because it's by far the easiest in the whole run. Oh no, look at how hard this is. I had to put my everything into clearing this. Oh wait, we still have over a dozen levels left or something. What am I doing? I really should stop wasting time. Especially because, haha, after all that, this level can't clear it. I was unable to find a way to do Rick wall jumps properly, but even if I was, Rick can't even reach this wall to begin with. I had to ditch him and progress as Kirby. That's how bad we're talking here. Getting this Heart Star, it's just not happening, but the level is actually super short otherwise. Clearing it is no problem, which is good because of the bosses that you can beat. I think Pon and Con take the cake right out of Squeak Squad at being the hardest boss fight in the whole game. For the sake of this run, at least. It never gets quite as tedious or annoying as Ball only did, but there's so much going on at any given point that it overwhelms you fast. And unlike every other boss, these two go off screen and pop back in at random points of the screen, if they even pop back out for a cycle at all. So let's make a neat little checklist of everything that you need to look out for during this fight. Let's see here. You got, Pon and Con, the actual bosses themselves. They each take up half of the overall boss health bar and won't flinch if they get hit. They don't explode or anything at all until they die, and all this stuff makes sense so far. But they do, like every other boss, have an invulnerability period where they can't take damage after getting hit. The little Pon and Con babies, whatever those guys are called, they have a name, but I think calling them babies is naturally kind of funny. Anyway, these little guys can be beaten normally, but obviously hurting them won't do anything to Pon and Con. Wow, they're pretty bad parents, huh? Speaking of bad parenting, they let their kids drop these bombs from the top of the screen. Whether or not they fall from the upper left or center or the right is up to chance, but when they land, they'll bounce if they're about to fall even lower, and if they don't bounce, they'll stop where they are. The explosion lasts a while and has a dangerously long hitbox, so you want to try to hit these bombs before they land. You hit them with our recurring most wanted criminal of the day, Kirby. Aside from actually dealing damage, he doesn't do very much except for cause resets. He used to be such a good boy. And finally, Rick. While it should be obvious that we always have to watch Rick, the size of the screen and the hard platforms making his jump height really small make a character with as large of a hitbox as him extremely hard to dodge things with properly. At all times, you have to constantly pay attention to all of these factors while not only reacting to where Pon and Con and babies are, but also where Kirby and Rick are. Kirby has to kill the bosses, but more often than not, he'll kill your run. Yeah, don't forget, this is a boss fight. It's not just a regular level. Defeating the enemies is required, and getting your positioning right to hurt Pon and Con without getting Rick hurt too much or caught by Kirby, it's a lot. But the footage is speaking for itself here. You can win this, and it's crazy satisfying. For the first time in what feels like forever, this is a room with a really difficult portion that's actually clearable. The placement of these enemies and the bones that the little dudes throw make getting the proper positioning and jump height really tricky, but thankfully we win the day. This Sir Kibble blocking the door, that doesn't even give us any trouble either. Good. Then right after, there's an auto-scroller that doesn't give us enough space to run around with Rick. You know, I kind of wish that you couldn't clear any of the auto-scrollers. I mean, at least in that case, I can make an exception like I did with the water. The Heart Star is also another no-go, since you have to clean the flowers instead of kill them. Rick can't do very much by himself, and Boomerang Kirby only knows violence. It's the only life he's ever lived. This bit here took me a long time to figure out. I couldn't get past the Sir Kibble without getting hit by a Terran. Okay, I know there's a P in the name, and the Japanese text reads with a P in mind, but these enemies are modeled after the pterodactyl, which have a P that is silent, so I'm sticking with that pronunciation, and I'm sticking with it, and there's nothing you can do to stop. And the whole time, all I had to do was not jump, and I've been fine. The rest of the level wasn't easy, but surprise, surprise, it's doable. It can be kind of weird to navigate because of the clouds, but there aren't even any jump scares from Kirby soaring at you from below. It's overall very straightforward, and if Kirby does become a problem, he comes from above. Above or below, simply seeing him instills enough fear in the soul. Alright, the first room is doable. How exciting! Water. Auto-scroller. Heart Star! Who cares? The wind really helps us here, since Rick being pushed forward makes him go a lot faster. Finally, Kirby doesn't have the advantage. The things got real scary right around here, but with the wind on our side, you could say that it was smooth sailing. Oh, come on! Yeah, no way out of this either. So annoying. I had such a good pun. Like the video for that good pun. Ooh, a level designed around Rick. This should be exciting. Hey, even in the worst case scenario, we get the Heart Star, right? And this first room isn't so bad, even if it feels like Kirby kind of catches up out of nowhere, but I want to talk about this room here. My Twitter followers may remember me excitedly posting it on there after I got it. And I mean, if you don't follow me on Twitter, here you go, please follow me, I'm lonely. But the solution for this one was really creative. Like what we did for Pon and Con, let's break this down. First, Rick tosses Kirby and goes right. If he goes left, he has to wall jump, and as we established earlier, I can't get that to work. Now we have to wait a bit for the Galbo, love this design by the way, to shoot out some fire. When Kirby gets close to Rick, you need to land on the same platform as the Galbo, so you need to time it so that, as you're landing, the Galbo stops breathing fire. Avoiding Kirby, you jump on the Galbo and land on the left platform. Right away, jump to the next platform, repeat while pulling some slick moves to skip Kirby, and when you get to the platform with the Bronto Bird on it, keep running. The Bronto Bird will start flying. You need to wait a bit to jump though, because Rick is so big, he'll jump into the Bronto Bird and Kirby will catch up. Repeat this again, and bam, creativity wins the day. And this is probably my favorite part of the whole run, because the solution was just so out there. And then you get here and you can't clear it because Rick wall jumps really slowly. Comment on the video for the good pun! You hate to see it. That was actually not that hard for the most part. Because you fight 4, I guess technically 5, bosses in one fight, they each have really small health bars. The Ice Dragon, for example, only takes 3 hits to beat. Sweet stuff. Don't ask me why that's what they named it. I think about this a lot too. Is more difficult due to the more erratic movement and actually having an attack that goes through projectiles like Kirby, but it's more of the same overall and only takes 4 hits. Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright are a bit more involved since they move around, but it isn't really by a lot. They attack so infrequently in a pretty large arena that they're easy to hit and avoid. The Kracko is actually kind of tough, entirely because of this lightning attack that requires you to run to the corner to avoid, and when you're cornered, Kirby will find you. Still, it doesn't take much to get around that, and every other one of his attacks is as easy to avoid as you'd expect. Take him down, Addo gets mad, accidentally win, and you're done. For the sake of the challenge, I'd say this is the easiest boss in the game, at least that you can beat, if only because everything dies so quickly. It's also my favorite fight in the game, fun little Kirby fan fact. At this point, we've gone over what works and what doesn't in detail enough, to the point where I can't think of much new to say about Iceberg. Since the video's gone on for a bit long as it is, we'll knock the rest out of the game, minus day-to-day, lightning round style. Let's go! 5-1, impossible. Arenas like this with a lot of jumping don't work. 5-2, impossible. Having to fall down also hurts our chances for success. There's a metaphor in here somewhere, I'm sure. 5-3, impossible. You can see at this point I got tired of swimming with Rick and just clear the level with Kine instead. You can get the Heart Star though, even with Rick. 5-4, impossible. You need fire to get through the level. The only reason I went for Parasol was so that I could put Parasol in the video because I like this ability a lot. 5-5, impossible. This area is too thin for Rick to get through. Did you know that this kills enemies? I sure didn't. 5-6, definitely possible, but this first room is a pain. This also falls into the footage was corrupted stockpile, and I really didn't want to try it again because that first room, as I said, is a pain. And now, with the lightning round out of the way, the final battle with Dedede. The biggest hurdle that we need to cross in order to beat Dedede is the size of the arena. This is the smallest arena we've had to fight in since Acro, maybe even Wispy, but unlike those two, Dedede has very erratic patterns. The very edges of the arena are also platforms themselves, and if we land on them, it gives us really bad positioning in relation to Kirby. Not fun. Phase 1 in particular is tough because the ground, you know where Dedede likes to be, is where we want to be. The two things that he likes to do make things even worse. He moves along the ground and he jumps. There's a good amount of wind-up and animation before he does anything for you to react, but unless you're far away from him, something that might not always be possible, keeping track and reacting isn't going to be possible. Sometimes you just need to focus on running away. But don't forget, again, this is a boss. Kirby has to attack him, which requires, you guessed it, being close. It's really ironic how an ability that was designed to be a projectile requires you to be so close to bosses in order to hurt them, for the most part. For the sake of the challenge, anyway. All of these factors, with everything in mind, make this a tough fight, but with enough patience, he'll go down and enter Phase 2. Phase 2 is really easy. You just need to watch out for those black orbs he shoots out of his stomach. This is the part where a standard YouTuber making a video about Kirby would probably say something like, "Kirby's Dream Land 3, are you okay?" And I guess I'm a standard YouTuber now because I just did that. But otherwise, none of his attacks are threatening at all. And for some added bonus points, he's always in the sky, giving you plenty of room to avoid Kirby. With some careful positioning and a bit of therapy on the side, you'll take Day-to-Day down no problem. And that's all. It should come as no surprise, with all of the heart stars we missed, that fighting Dark Matter and Zero wasn't gonna happen. Still, at the end of the day, an impressive amount of Kirby's Dream Land 3 was cleared without Kirby and only Rick. The video game equivalent to Garfield minus Garfield. Never thought I'd bring that up in a video. So, how many levels can be cleared with only Rick? Well, there are 5 worlds with 6 levels each, and each world also has a boss fight. For the sake of making things look better, we'll exclude Dark Matter, Zero, and Hyperzone from the calcs. That means there are 35 levels in total. When looking at how many levels are possible, we reach a grand total of, drumroll please, or not, 15! 15 out of 35 levels can be cleared with only Rick. That gives us a final percentage of approximately 43%. Of course, this isn't including heart stars or anything. I just really wanted to give Rick a decent looking number if I could. And 43 is not that, but it's better than the alternative, right? Doing this, I realized some things. First of all, Rick is not very fun to play as. With the right ability combinations, he can be a bit better, but at his base, he's really limiting. I'd go as far as to say playing normally with Rick, not this challenge, makes the game more tedious than just playing with Kirby or any of the other animal friends. Second, capture cards stink. So much corrupted footage. Duh. And finally, even though certain room structures proved to be roadblocks, creativity won over almost everything else. You'll love to see it. With all that said, thank you so much for watching. I've been Kirby Fan, hope you have a great day, and I'll see you around. Bye-bye.
Subscribe for that pun!